Free Japan Channel number 3. Today, 16th September, Saturday, here in Yokohama. The time is 4 p.m. and the sun is shining so brilliantly in the western sky. This is also a very beautiful scene from here. And the Yokohama port can be seen from here. And this port is now reflecting the sunshine and shining white. And this is very fantastic scene. Dear listeners, how are you doing? I'm Matsumoto, now broadcasting from Yokohama. This is a third broadcasting of FJC. Today's theme is Who Were the Comfort Women? Have you ever heard of the Comfort Women? These were the women who worked in the special place for Japanese soldiers in the 1930s and 40s, so during the war. And these women were gathered from Japanese mainland, as well as Manchuria, Korean Peninsula, and Taiwan. So these women were those people who some of them came to the place, so special place, voluntarily, and the purpose was perhaps money. In these places, so comfort places, so to speak, a large amount of money was paid from Japanese military institution, so Japanese army, to the women. So this was the work. This was a job, special job, but in which those women could earn large amount of money compared to the normal job, compared to the ordinary job. And approximately 70% of comfort women were Japanese women, and 10 or 15% Korean women, and the other were Manchurian women or Taiwanese. So the majority of comfort women consisted of Japanese women, and Korean women were only 10 or 15%. And at that time, 1930s and 40s, Korean Peninsula was a colony, so to speak, colony of Japan, the Japanese Empire, Great Japan Empire. So these Korean women were at that time regarded as Japanese women, and these women were gathered to the comfort places. Some women came there spontaneously, as I said, but others may have been, other women were sold for Japanese army by their own parents, because in those days, Korean Peninsula was a very, very poor place compared to other Asian nations, of course, compared to Japan. So it was a common phenomenon that parents sold their own daughters to some place. And accidentally it was these comfort places. And these women, these Korean girls at that time, were sold by their parents. But if these parents didn't tell the girls the detail, then the girl got the impression that they were kidnapped, they were taken by Japanese army, because the places where they were brought were Japanese places, Japanese military places. And there they had no choice but to provide sexual services for Japanese soldiers. The objective of these comfort places was to prevent Japanese soldiers from resorting to violence to the local people during the war. So these comfort places were built in the battlefield or front line. So very dangerous places. So that is one reason why so much money was paid to these women, because it was from the first place very dangerous job. And even now this sexual job is paid much higher than ordinary job. So at that time it was said that if women worked in those comfort places of Japanese army, then they could build their own house. And one thing that I want to emphasize here is that no comfort women were reported to be brought to the comfort places forcibly by Japanese army. There was nobody, and there was no report. But, as I said, some of them went there on their own accord, and others went there. Others were brought there, rather, by the agents. There were some agents who mediated the parents who wanted to sell their daughters and Japanese military institution. And most of these agents were, of course, Koreans, not Japanese. The problem is that these comfort women were reported to be brought to the battlefield forcibly, so by the force of Japanese army in the 1980s. So comfort women problem, what is called comfort women problem, suddenly arose in the 1980s when one Japanese ex-soldier confessed having kidnapped Korean girls in Jeju Island. He described this former soldier described the situation of kidnapping so vividly and in detail. So everyone believed that it was a systematic Japanese army's order, and he told so too. Besides, every newspaper here in Japan, especially Asahi newspaper, featured this former soldier and reported his story at Jeju Island. But later, the story of this ex-soldier was complete lie. And he also admitted that he had only written novel. He said he had only written novel, fiction, in the newspaper. That was fiction. But Asahi newspaper continued to report this false information from then on, and this Asahi newspaper's article was translated into English and French, and this spread all over the world. This is the cause of so-called comfort women problem. The biggest responsibility is in Asahi newspaper, which continued to report the story of false information even after they knew that the testimony of this former soldier was wrong, was only imaginary thing. Other newspapers or media stopped reporting this ridiculous story of one stupid former soldier, but only Asahi continued to report, and for a long time Asahi was considered to be a quality paper here in Japan. So many of the Japanese people, as well as overseas people, continue to believe this kidnapping story of comfort women. So this is a very sad and ridiculous story, but this is the essence of comfort women problem. And unfortunately, none of the Japanese prime minister said that it was a wrong story. None of them said that. Only Japanese Foreign Ministry published some article or some report about this false information in the website, but they have never told loudly, clearly that it was a long story. So in this channel, I would like to portray the true image of Japan. Of course, Japan has done many horrible things during the war. I can admit that. But this comfort women problem is from the first to the end an imaginary thing, but now some Koreans or overseas Koreans even now continue to blame for this phenomenon, comfort women problem, even though they themselves knew that it was a fictional story. So today I'd like you listeners to know that this comfort women or so-called comfort women problem derived from the foolish imaginary story of one Japanese former soldier who invented the whole story, which was immediately proved to be wrong, even in the 1980s. And even Korean researchers researched this problem and concluded that there was none of these events in the Jeju Island. So today's topic was a bit heavy, but I think that you can now a bit understand better about the problem of comfort women, which is still now ignites some conflict between Japan and Korea. Thank you.